Welcome back to another episode of the X-Man podcast. I'm your host, Doc Coyle. Yes, I did just steal John Oliver's call sign. Doesn't sound quite as good without a British accent, but seriously welcome, because I took last week off for the first time, I want to say in 10 weeks, maybe even longer, since I've gone more than a week without a show. But last minute, Bad Wolves had kind of a live recording project that, and I really mean last minute, within, 10 days or 2 weeks of having to do something. A lot of work had to be done. And it was also the week of my birthday, my 40th birthday. And, so I was physically just overwhelmed with work. And you know what? I think your boy's just kind of a little burnt out, in many ways. I think there's a lot, we had, just in a short amount of time, we had the end of the NBA Finals. Congrats to the Los Angeles Lakers. My call sign, Mama out. Shout out to Kobe Bryant. Got that for LA. So some good news for them. Good news for LeBron. That was fun. But yeah, so I don't know. And sometimes I just have these periods where maybe this happens to you, where you just want to run and hide. My boy Jamie Josta calls it going into the Matrix. And I feel like I never really get a chance to do that. It's been, about a week since I posted on, Instagram or anything. And I have these periods where I'm just, I just want to, I don't know, go to a cabin somewhere and just write or watch movies or play guitar or whatever. I don't know. I don't know if it's healthy or not, and it definitely, I think, is related to, some kind of depression or whatever. And I don't know, maybe that's anxiety around turning 40. I don't know. I don't really feel like I feel any kind of way about it, but yeah, I think even birthdays, the older I get, the attention, people wishing you happy birthday, and we had a little get together and just hanging with people, getting birthday presents, things like that, is very, I don't know, something about it. It strikes me odd, or strikes me in a weird way. So I don't know. I've just been kind of dealing with this fog, and I think in these times, I don't know about you, but I get very reflective, and I kind of go over my life, and I'm like, what do I want to do? Do I want to be doing this? Is this making me happy? Is this making me miserable? And yeah, so in that respect, I think there's some positive angles to kind of maybe being down in the dumps or not being totally connected, because I feel in these moments a little disconnected from people. And I don't really know what to make of it, but it did happen, and it's something I'm kind of in the midst of. But I didn't want to forget about you guys, and I wanted to get a show out. I have a great show coming up, and before I kind of get going with that, I just want to make a note about last week's show. I kind of went in on the on the president, but I got, usually I don't really get a ton of feedback, with regard to the kind of more politically oriented statements I make, but there was, I did get a message, someone saying they thought I kind of wasn't really correct there. And, and it was definitely a partisan thing where they're a supporter and I'm not a supporter, but at least the person did say they're still a fan of the show. And he wasn't calling me an asshole or anything. He was just like, hey, I disagree with you. And he actually tried to explain himself and give links and things like that. And I'm sure no matter what, we'll probably find some disagreement there. But just want to reiterate, when I talk about that subject matter, my point is never to divide or to castigate you if we happen to disagree. I just feel it's my responsibility sometimes to express myself in the most honest way possible. And that's how it goes sometimes. So thank you to that listener for continuing to support the show, despite the fact that we might disagree on things. And I think that's a great way to go about it. And I'm not going to talk about that this week because we're 2 weeks away from the election and things are tense. People are, you can feel it in the air. So let's shake that off and keep it moving. But anyway, I hope you guys are doing well this time. It's tough times. I'm definitely, and during this, like I said, when I'm feeling like this, you also get kind of like the pandemic blues, where you're just like, oh, I wish I could do that, but I can't. I wish we could do that, but we can't, and that's a bummer. Or you can, like I was actually thinking about, I was like, imagine if I think some people are just living their lives. They're like, they haven't changed anything. They're just like going to barbecues and going to the beach and just saying fuck it. I'm like, I'm sure it's quite liberating. Must be nice. All right. We have a show sponsor this week, guys. All right. So this is a band. I want to say their third or fourth time sponsoring the show, which is amazing. I really appreciate it. That kind of, which tells me the listeners are supporting the artists that we play on the show. And that's incredible. So they're getting some feedback, and they want to keep coming back. So this band is Pathos and Logos. We're going to play. They did a cover. All right. So we're going to play this on the Jesse Leach from Killswitch Engage episode, but there was a mix up. I didn't have the music, so we saved it for this episode. So this is their cover of Killswitch Engage's End of Heartache, and this is a live edition. So check this out. Hope you guys like it. So there you have it. Pathos and Logos doing a cover of a classic Killswitch Engage song. As you can tell, they are an instrumental band. It's a two-piece as far as I know. I don't know what they do live, if they're using like guitar tracks or loopers. Maybe they have some session people kind of sitting in with them. But that performance was done in part of a festival entitled Death in My Metal, Not in My Streets, which raised over $2,000 for Black Lives Matter 5280, a Denver-based activism group that strives to eliminate racial justice. That song can be heard here, of course. And then there's an actual video will be going live, or should be live now, actually, as well as many live performances on their YouTube page and their Instagram, which you want to go to at pathos.logos. And you can go to their Bandcamp, which is pathoslogos.bandcamp.com, buy CDs, buy merch, all the stuff. And they put out an album in 2020 called Glory to Order. Like I said, they're friends of the show. Kyle's worked with God Forbid on a couple of our albums on the production team back at Trax East, New Jersey. And the drummer used to work for the band. Great guys. Please support them. And I really appreciate it. Really appreciate those guys supporting the show. And if you want to support the show, you know what to do. Send me email at thexmanpodcast@gmail.com. That's EX, or slide in those DMs. Almost said slip in the DMs. And I was like, no, slide. Get to slide in the DMs. Alrighty then. Actually, hold on. We have one more sponsor. Damn, see, you know what? I thought my brain was working. Sometimes the brain is not. Hold on, let me have a more sip of this energy beverage. I'm not gonna tell you who it is. Anyway, yeah, we got to give a shout out to our good friends at Good Company, Scott Bowling. Great YouTube interview show. They talk to people that come on this show. Check it out.
Hey guys, my name's Scott Bowling. I have a YouTube show called Good Company with Bowling.
What's up? This is Clint Lowry from Seven Dust.
Hey, what's up? This is Sonny Mayo.
Hey, Ricky Rackman.
And you're watching Good Company with Scott Bowling.
I've interviewed bands like Limp Bizkit, Fozzy, Seven Dust, Korn. I've had Chris Farley's brother, Tom Farley, on the show. My show is kind of like a modern day Wayne's World. If you love a good interview, a good rock interview, or just any kind of interview, please, if you get a chance, check out my show, Good Company with Bowling.
There you have it. Scott is a good guy. Tons of great guests. You know what he actually just had on his show? I need to check this out. Is Puck from the real world. If you're old enough like me, it's Real World 2, where, they had Pedro's like, Puck is always sticking his finger at the peanut butter. He can put the peanut butter on his nose and he go, Puck was kind of a dick. But, interesting. I feel like checking out. So yeah, go over to YouTube and look up Good Company, Scott Bowling, 2 T's. Shout out to Scott for sponsoring the show. Really appreciate it. And yeah, without further ado, quick little intro to my guests. Again, one of those guests needs no introduction. My favorite drummer in the world. The greatest thrash drummer. Some people say the best punk rock drummer of all time. I've heard this phrase too. Mr. Dave Lombardo of Slayer. I mean, he's no longer in Slayer, but I think he'll always be to people like myself, Dave Lombardo from Slayer, but he's played with Testament. He currently plays in Suicidal Tendencies. He plays with the Misfits. He plays with Mr. Bungle. He was in a band called Grip Incorporated. He's been, I can't even go through all the stuff he's done. This is one of the top people I was looking to get for the show, period. So it's a big check, this is, as I call it, the bucket list. Before the show ends, before I croak, there are certain people I need to talk to, and he's one of them. So the fact that he did this and was so gracious about making his time available was incredible and unbelievable, and really reflective of just who Dave is. I've known him for a long time. He's always been great to me. We get into that. We go through all our experiences together and the times we've toured together. But I think you guys are really gonna love this, man. He really opens up. He talks about his process, his history. I get into all these records he's done that I'm such a massive fan of. So, this is, it's a little ball fluffing, but he's my favorite drummer. What am I supposed to do? Pretend like he's not my favorite drummer? Anyway, you know what? Let's just get into it. This is a long one. It's a longie but a goodie. That's what she said. Anyway, here is the legendary and you know what? Humble. He is humble, even though he doesn't need to be. Dave Lombardo. We got the drum kit in the background. This is like ready for prime time.
Oh yeah, we're ready.
We'll put you to work, man.
And fuck, I've been quarantined far too long in this padded room, which I can't complain because it's actually been kind of nice because I've been able to focus on things that I wouldn't normally focus on because I'm always pulled in so many different directions, or rehearsals or tours or writing sessions, and which is all good, but this kind of lockdown period, it's been kind of nice because I've been able to focus on some things that I've been wanting to finish up and complete.
Like what?
Well, when all this went down, my last show was in March 10th, which was the last time I saw my kids, which I miss them dearly. We all went to a show together, and we went out right in the height of everything about to happen. I think the last show was March 10th. We did this Dean Del Rey. I'm sure you know the comedian. Well, I did some songs, some AC/DC songs with him, and great time. And so as soon as that went down, I was like, man, what the hell? What am I going to do? So there's this project I'm not going to talk about because every time I've said something about it, it seems like I've jinxed it. So the number one project, one day I'll come back to you and I'll tell you, remember that one project? Well, here it is. All right. So we have that. So I started working on that, and then I got hit up by the bass player in Dead Cross. He has this project called Satanic Planet. And I'm a big fan of sound design and music engineering, music production. So, I've always had a love for sound samples, synthesizers and industrial music. Mm-hmm. So, he hit me up. Hey, Dave, would you like to be a part of this? Would you like to play drums on it? I said, wow, this couldn't have come at a perfect time. So he approached me to do just one song, and he liked what I did, which was, it had absolutely nothing to do with acoustic drums. It had to do with sounds and samples and sound design, working with Pro Tools and, Spectrasonics and Contact and all these amazing software platforms.
I just got Omnisphere.
Brilliant. It's standard pretty much now in the world of television and et cetera. And so he hit me up. I went back with some material that he really liked, and he said, hey, you want to do another one? Next thing you know, I'm in the band, and I helped, create this body of work. I think there's only one song that actually has a 4-piece drum beat on it, with this other drum kit I have set up at home. So I have the big double kit, and then I have a small 4-piece in the living room, which is very ambient, very boomy, Zeppelin-esque, drum set. So there's that project, Satanic Planet. And then, so that's going to be out soon. I just received the song list, so I'm really excited about that. And, what else? Body Count hit me up, and they asked me to play Colors 2020. The song Colors from the 80s. You know? So we made it very heavy, and so I recorded that in here. I
I
was
wrote
able
a
to.
song on the last Body Count record.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, the song This Is Why We Ride.
Ah, brilliant.
Yeah,
Congrats.
that
Great.
was crazy.
And I love Ernie, Vincent, of course, Ice, and everyone
Ernie's been
else.
on the show.
Oh, he has?
Yeah, he's so nice, man. Such a good
Yeah.
dude.
He's badass, man. He's probably the only other left-handed guitar player I know personally. Because I'm left-handed and I play a left-handed guitar, and so whenever I watch him, it's like, fuck yeah, one up for the left-handers, you know? It's pretty cool.
Well,
But, there's been other things and just a lot of exciting things happening, even though we're in this pandemic.
yeah. Listen, first off, I just want to thank you for taking the time to be on this show. I'd say you're probably top 3 or 4 kind of bucket list people I wanted to get, because the theme of the show, I kind of developed after I left my old band, God forbid, was, the X-Men, this idea of trying to, I had a point in my life where I was trying to figure out what the hell I was going to do. Do I still want to do music? Could I still do music? And careers like yourself, are really kind of the most exemplary level of that. This idea of an individual is known for one thing and has a background and makes a name for themselves in one area, and then goes on to say, no, that's not going to define who I am. I'm going to keep going and keep exploring and allow whatever kind of confluence of talent and hard work and ambition to all come together to make other things happen. And I'll be honest, I kind of went through your whole career and your whole catalog, and it's almost intimidating. Like, I don't know if I've encountered one person on this show, at least, that just has as many credits and has made as many albums and has done such a diverse array of things. It's almost like when I say it's intimidating because I don't even know what I'm trying to think, like, what should I even cover? There's no way we can get to everything. So we'll kind of go through some things. We'll just let it be natural and kind of see where things take us. But let's talk about something more recently that you've done. This new Mr. Bungle song just dropped, and it's insane. It's completely left field, because when I think of Mr. Bungle, I think of the synthy circus music, and then there's this crazy left turn, and I guess it's a re-recording of an original demo. The band used to be all grindy and thrashy, and so what's the background behind this whole thing?
Well, before these guys became the Mr. Bungle that everyone knows, they were all inspired by the early thrash metal bands, which was Slayer, Exodus, Venom, Metallica, and that was really the original concept of Mr. Bungle. And they created this demo very early on cassette, and it's been circulated, throughout the years. And then, the advent of YouTube, that took it over, and, it was released to the masses. So, they've always had this love for thrash and metal. And Patton and Trevor, the bass player, they told me a story that they had gone to a Slayer Venom Exodus show in San Francisco at the Kabuki Theater. And the one story that really stuck out, which was kind of funny, was that, Patton was there, and he said, man, it was great. Got to see, Exodus. I got to see you guys. And then I went to the balcony and passed out during Venom. And then Trevor said, yeah, I couldn't find him anywhere in the venue. And he said he went upstairs and Patton was passed out because they had driven from Eureka, California to San Francisco for that show and had to go back that same night. So those kids were, at that time, kids were exhausted. I mean, I had to have been, during that show, I was like 19 years old. And so they had to have been 16, 17 years old. And so I find it endearing and kind of cool. So there's always been this kind of underground talk about, Mr. Bungle, getting back together because they haven't been back together in 20 years. Dead Cross played a show in Brooklyn at the no, it wasn't the Brooklyn Steel. That's where we played with Bungle. I forget what venue it was, but anyways, Trevor Dunn was there, the bass player, and we all took a picture together. It was Trey, Patton, myself, and Trevor, and then Trevor made a joke. Wow, this could be the new Mr. Bungle. So that floated around in my head for a while, and knowing about this metal demo that they had done, and one day after the Dead Cross tour, I believe that we had done with Trace Bruins and the band Secret Chiefs. I had seen Patton up in San Francisco around February of 2018, I believe. Or 19, I don't know. But
it's all blending together.
Yeah, it's especially now with this pandemic. And so I texted Trey, and I told him, hey, let's surprise Patton and create some of these demos. I said, send me the click track, send me, a demo guitar and whatever, and I'll play some drums to it and send it over to Patton and see what he does with it. So he loved the idea. He spoke to Trevor. He really loved the idea. And then finally, I guess, approached Patton with it. And he, of course, was like, fuck yeah, let's do it. And so here we are. We're about to release a full-length record, double album.
Do you know when it comes out?
I think it comes out October 30th.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Nice timing.
Of course, yeah. Raging of the Easter Bunny. Think about that. Look, I'm so scared.
Well, this is the third band, if I'm correct, you've done with Mike Patton, Fantomas, Dead Cross. Is there anything else I'm missing?
We've done improvisations together, let's say, just recently. Actually, I need to post this video because it shows the pure essence of creativity and love of music. It's a bass player named Bill Laswell. It was his birthday, and we were playing up in San Francisco. And actually, that was the time I saw Patton, and then I suggested to Trey about doing the demo. So Patton joined us on stage. It was myself on drums, Laswell on bass. Forgive me, violin player, but there was a violin on stage as well. More of an avant-garde, experimental, I think, violinist, and with a lot of different pedals and sound effects and stuff. Yeah. And so Patton said, hey, don't tell anybody I'm going. I don't want any attention or anything. I just want to go up and jam with you guys. So
there was no prearranged music. It was all just off the cuff.
No, it's all off the cuff. Yeah, I love playing that's my recharge or kind of my reset button is improvisation. And so we went on stage together, and next thing you know, one person starts, the other one follows, and we create this body of music, and it's just all improvised. There's a beginning, there's a middle, and there's an end, and it's just beautiful. And so I do improvisations with them. I've done Fantomas, we've done Dead Cross, we've done, and now Mr. Bungle. Yeah.
I mean, it's so interesting because, Fantomas, I remember when that came out, and I remember reading some things that Mr. Bungle, that Mike Patton was saying kind of about you in almost a in the spirit of almost being hesitant, you know, because it's almost seemed like his mindset at that time was kind of in this different realm, and that maybe was antithetical to like having a quote unquote thrash metal drummer at that time. And then you listen to the record, and I'll be honest, it's like, out of the stuff you do, that's like a bit left of center for like my taste, even though I can appreciate what's going on there. But clearly there's something for you where kind of going down these really odd paths seem to be very enticing.
Yes.
And what is it about Mike in particular? I mean, or actually maybe a better way of saying this is like, where does that abstract sense of things when it comes to music? Because I mean, you pretty much all the people of those bands come from more commercially viable backgrounds, but also come together and do this almost kind of like, insane, abstract, like avant-garde is probably the best way to put it. Yeah. I mean, what is it about that collection that brings that out of it, you think?
Well, I think, first of all, it's a challenge from your everyday, typical, metal style of music, which I've played my fair share of, and I love it and I enjoy it. It's like an adrenaline rush, to play, metal. But also, when it comes to like a very challenging body of work, that is also very gratifying. And I think that for me, I've always wanted to step outside of what I was known for, and that has been a challenge. And I feel it's been kind of a good thing for me because, of course, I've ventured off in so many different paths that drive for me to step outside my comfort zone it has, in a way, like, I feel made me a better musician, and it's challenged me. And because before metal or before Slayer, there was always a side of me that enjoyed the strange and the abstract.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be perfect for me. It doesn't have to be. As long as it has feeling, it's human, it's real. I mean, take the human part out of it because I love also electronic music. But as long as it's just, it's challenging and different, it's always, I think, something for me that attracts me. When I first performed with John Zorn, which was he's a saxophone player, composer. If you go to his catalog, if you look up his name,
I know John Zorn. I was actually in Chicago. That band Yakuza from Chicago. Yeah. I think they were playing with you guys. Like, they were doing 2 shows that night. Like, they were playing with you guys, or there was something going on. I remember I was in Chicago the same night you were playing with John Zorn. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it was Blade Runner. Blade Runner is a all improvisation band. It's a trio: saxophone, bass player, saxophone, bass, and drums. So that's probably what I was playing. Yeah, I think.
So like it was like a year or two ago. So, like I said, I was in Chicago and I was like on an off date from tour, and you happened to or maybe it was maybe it's actually a few years before that. It might have been when I was driving cross country and moved to LA in like 2014. Yeah,
that's probably around the time. Yeah.
Get my days confused.
Oh, dude. So, when I worked with Zorn, the very first time, it was so intimidating because I was around a concert, an orchestral percussionist. Of course, orchestral percussionists have, the timpanis, the bongos, the bells, the gongs, all the bells and whistles, everything. He had it. And then there's this metal drummer. Then he had a very, a typical, jazz keyboardist or pianist, whatever. And then an avant-garde keyboardist that would set up his keyboard on a on an ironing board and all his sounds and everything, which is kind of funny. And then same thing with a guitar player that was the more jazz traditional, and then a more of an avant-garde. So two different sides to every musician. And then Zorn would stand in front of the band and he would hold up these cards, and he has a series of bodies of work, called game pieces. And he would call out two musicians, and the card would say slow, and then he would pick up another card and say slow and soft. So he would point to those two musicians and drop it. Those musicians would play for a certain period of time, and when he felt the right moment, he would pick up other cards that would say slow and loud. So, and he would point to two other musicians. He would drop the cards, boom, they would go right into that section. And we would improvise back and forth, through the evening like this. And we actually recorded that album, which is called Su Fong. That when I heard the board tape of this performance, I felt, wow, somebody feels and understands music in a different way, like I do. I felt such a great connection with Zorn, and then that night that we played that show, Patton, Zorn on saxophone, and myself, we did a trio, and we performed a whole improvisation, which I fell on my butt that night. I went to hit my gong, and I fell flat on my back. Zorn's playing, and he could barely continue playing because he was doing this little duet with Patton. And, as he's, watching me on the floor, scrambling to get up. And it was quite the evening. But, I found that there was another, another genre, another group of musicians, that thought outside of the box.
Yeah.
Because when Slayer first started, we thought outside of the box. There was nothing like us at that time. Maybe, Metallica and Exodus. That's it. At that time, there was really, I'm sure there were other bands. Okay, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure there's going to be, this whole list of people saying shit, But at that time, what we knew was only that. And there was metal, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, and there was punk. So that helped us kind of to create, that band at the time. So we, at that time, were thinking out of the box as well. And weren't.
That's a good segue, because I wanted to ask you a little bit about Slayer. Just kind of taking it all the way back. And I literally went through every Slayer record yesterday just to absorb it, just absorb the vibes. And it's such a, Slayer is an outlier. I know you mentioned Exodus, you mentioned Metallica, but there was this other thing, right? And you could hear Venom and you could hear Motorhead, but there was, in some regards, I mean, the difference between Slayer and probably the rest of the thrash metal bands that came up during that time is, in a sense, Slayer kind of invented what we consider extreme music, right? Like, I don't think without Slayer you have death metal, black metal.
Yeah. Without Venom, and Slayer was definitely influenced by Venom in the early days. When you hear, Tom singing and some of the melodies, they were straight up influenced by Venom. And, not so much Merciful Fate, but I remember the guys listening to Merciful Fate, Celtic Frost, Destruction.
So Destruction predates Slayer?
We did, in 1984, Destruction and Slayer were on tour together in Europe in 84.
Okay, so you were contemporaries.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I don't know if they came after Slayer, or they could have been, forming around the same time. Everyone, had their head to the ground or their ear to the ground when it came to, new music and metal during that period. So you never know.
Do you know of anyone that was playing double bass the way you were before you? Like who in terms of just the real speed of it, because we think it was the drummer from Motorhead. He was kind of, was it Mickey D? Is that his name?
No. It was Filthy.
Filthy. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Getting screwed up with. But I heard he was credited with the first like double bass drummer.
Yeah, he was, because of the song Overkill. Yeah, Overkill. I had to think about it. Yeah. I mean, I bought, when I was a kid, No Sleep Till Hammersmith. And I heard that piece. And when you listen back to it now, it's pretty slow. But when I heard it, yes, it was slow. But what was I, 16, 17 years old, with that adrenaline and hyperactivity, which, I was, and love for music and anything that was fast and drum heavy. I wanted to go back to rehearsal and play that beat. But you know what? I'm going to play it faster. That's where I went. It's like, no, I'm going to play it faster. When I took drum lessons, I took drum lessons for a very short period in 4th grade. I played the marching drum. And I remember this kid at the time that was the other, drummer in the band, in the school band. And he taught me this rudiment, this pattern. And when he played it at a certain speed. But when I played it, I wanted to play it faster. And so I sped it up as fast as I can go. And I don't know if that was influenced by watching Buddy Rich on the Johnny Carson show when I was really little. And I remember seeing that guy's passion and the sweat just dripping off his face. And he was just doing this drum roll and just got faster and faster. But that kind of always, I think that, was burned into my mind to speed things up a little bit more. So I never really heard another drummer play, those rhythms, and except Slayer, maybe Exodus, Tom Hunting. We did a lot of tours with Exodus. And I feel like that guy, he needs to be credited as one of the, greatest thrash metal drummers, of our time. What he was doing at that time was very unique and different.
Yeah, of course.
It was pure. Bonded by Blood is pure thrash. And he was, or still is, an amazing drummer. And I think he definitely needs credit for what he's done and contributed to the world of thrash, more than any other drummer that I know of. I feel that very, very strong in my heart.
So I want to ask you a little bit about the kind of extreme nature, not just sound wise, which I think was pretty ever present with Slayer, but the kind of the lyrics, the imagery, the kind of the satanic stuff and all that. I mean, was that a real thing, or is that more theatrical? And I mean more in kind of the earlier days. Hell Awaits, was that just or was that like we just want to push it so far? It was just like we're trying to get attention, or was that like, were you guys that evil? Because you seem like the nicest, most chilled, and even we got the tour together, and I meet Tom, and he's like the most relaxed and fellow guy you ever want to meet. It's funny.
Yeah, well, at that time, we did want to get attention. It was done for imagery.
Yeah.
Maybe someone else might have a different opinion, but that's what I saw. At that time, I thought it was silly. I that the music should be the forefront of this. But, it took hold, and it was kind of cool, how it all evolved. And to this day, I think it's the perfect, imagery for a band that extreme, and with a name like Slayer. At that time, I didn't agree with it. I didn't like it. I didn't, it wasn't my thing. But now I get it, and where I stand personally, and my opinion, on religion, it's like I'm with it all the way. So I think it's kind of cool. I think it's pretty bad.
Tom is Catholic, right?
Yeah. So am I. I went to private school all the way up from first grade till ninth grade.
Yeah.
At public school for the rest of the 3 years, and then after that, then unfortunately I had gotten married, and the ex was heavily involved in religion, and just fucked me up.
Yeah.
So, but now it's just, I'm a free thinker. Just, I believe in science. That's it.
I think if Slayer put out called Science, I don't think it would get as many headlines.
Of course not.
Well, no, it's but I think you touch on a really important thing. This idea of the kind of cross section between music and marketing, branding, and in many ways, like I feel like if I was to look at Slayer from the outside looking in at a certain time, it'd kind of probably hard to imagine that Slayer would get to like an arena level or a platinum selling level because the music was so fast and so over the top. But when you combine that with this real focused sense of self and saying this, all branding is like, I say a name of a band or a product or whatever, and you get a feeling, right? You get like, it conjures something in your mind. And I didn't even see Slayer until literally right after well, actually, no, it was a few years after you left the band. On Diabolus and Musica. And it was the show, it was like, and you weren't playing with the band at the time, but it was August, it's 120 degrees in the venue. People are like losing their minds. There's 2,600 people in a venue that only should hold 1,400. And they open up with Hell Awaits. And it's literally like people losing their mind. And I mean that kind of literally, because the idea of what Slayer is kind of almost bigger than even what the actual music or band is. It's a feeling. It's like this idea of the random guy yelling Slayer at any show. And so I think that has as much to do with the success of the band as the actual sound of the music and the songwriting and all that stuff as well. But I don't know. I can't really imagine what that must have been like to kind of see something like that take hold.
It was a slow process. It may seem like it happened overnight, but it didn't.
Yeah.
It was a slow, gradual climb. We did not, climb and then boom, reach massive arena success. I think personally, to this day, Slayer alone, wouldn't. Well,
I think I know what you're gonna say. that even for them to play an arena, they have to have a pretty stacked bill. Yeah. Like, and by the way, that's a lot of bands. Like even like a Lamb of God. I filled in for Lamb of God, and we were doing like club dates or like theater dates with like War, playing in front of anywhere from 1,200 to like 3,000 people. But if you put Lamb with this band and that band, and then they can get into an arena or maybe get into an amphitheater. So I totally get that, and I think and I say this in this thing about the industry as well, is bands are like stocks, right? Sometimes they're up, sometimes they're down, and sometimes this band is playing a club, and they put an album out that people really like, and maybe then they're back into these venues, and it's an ebb and flow. And when you kind of can step back and look at just the history of bands and how things goes, it's it's cool. It's actually cool because it gives you, when you think, oh man, this band is maybe having a rough period, it's like, just give it time. Let's let the audience changes, that what's cool changes. Or sometimes I think metal fans too, man, they're so intuitive. And if you put out a record they don't like, they just won't come see you that tour. And then if you put out a record they do like, they'll come back.
Yeah. It's funny, but you say that about bands, but it also, it's true about musicians. For me, getting back to the Slayer thing, just real quick, when I first joined Slayer again, after I left in 92 and they called me back in 2001, it was like December 2001, and I played my first show with Slayer. Have you ever played Toad's Place?
Yeah.
New Haven, Connecticut.
Yeah.
Right?
It holds like, 1,500 people or something like that?
Something like that. That's where we played when I first came back into the band. That's where they were playing. I don't know what other venues or whatever, but their solo shows were in very small venues.
Yeah.
And I don't even think it's 1,500. I mean, I remember there was 18-year-olds could hang out upstairs behind the fence, and then over 21 downstairs, I believe is what it was. And but that also happens, with musicians. I was playing Big Four, but then I was playing a fucking club, in North Hollywood in front of 25 people.
I was there at Skinny's with Film.
Yeah.
Which is, listen, but I think that says more about you in particular than necessarily musicians at large, because, this kind of connects to, I read something that you had left the band before Rain and Blood, and then like Rick Rubin had to come track you down, and and it was because, and you were, and I'm repeating things I've read, so please correct me if I'm wrong.
True, I'll correct you if you're wrong. Go on.
That that you were broke basically, and that you're like, I need some motherfucking money. I'm struggling, right? But the relation between being at a certain point in your life, in your career, where you're like, I can't do this if I don't make this. But then 20, 30 years later, you're not playing Skinnies in front of 20 people because of money, right? So it's like this, like, on one hand, we need to survive, we need to live, we need to be compensated for our time and efforts and our talent. On the other hand, we just love doing this shit. Or some of us do. I mean, I know plenty of people who just got bitter, and that if they're playing at Skinnies in front of 20 people, to them it's a reflection of their shortcomings, or like for them that's not why they're there. But for you, for some reason, that's fine. Like you're just there to play. Yeah. But then sometimes you put on your kind of business person hat and say, all right, now it's time to make the donuts and pay the fucking mortgage. So you can kind of do what you gotta
do, man. I think well, my wife Paula, she tells me it builds character. Yeah. When you're on the roller coaster, you just and shit happens, it makes you a better person. It's not bad. I didn't care where I was playing, as long as I was being creative and putting out product that I liked, not what anybody else liked. With Film, I produced those 2 albums. I put those albums, I put the musicians together. I had an idea, and I got my son to engineer the record, both of them. And, we all did it in-house. And when I was dating my wife, Paula, she let me borrow her house. Say, hey, can I set up some drums here and put an amplifier there? We can run some mics and do this. And we made it happen on 0 budget. And I didn't care where I was playing, as long as I was playing. I was carrying my own drums. I didn't give a fuck. I didn't give a fuck what anybody thought of me. It's like, oh, Lombardo's carrying his own drums. He's setting up his own shit. It's like, that's right, motherfucker. That's right. Do my own shit.
I was just so happy at that show, because it's one of the few times I could see you play at a show and I could be like 10 feet away from you and just like absorb every, and really feel the like, I had the fortune of doing a couple songs at Dime Bash last year. We got to play together, so I got to actually like play with you.
Did we do what song? I was trying to remember. Did we do
did War? No, we did War Inside My Head. And is that all we did? We might have just did that. I feel like we did one or two songs.
I thought we did two.
Yeah, but I can't remember the second one.
It was South of Heaven, was it?
No, I didn't do South of Heaven with you. I didn't. It wasn't a Slayer song. I didn't play. I feel like I did two, at least one. It was one Suicidal song for sure. Maybe it was just that one song.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, that was before I got the chance to actually play with you. So just being able to like feel like there, drums is obviously there's the thing you hear and there's the fucking thing you feel. So that's why that was badass for me. But listen, I think that is a pretty unique characteristic, and I love that idea of character. That when I toured with you, I was 20, between 25 and 30, and still really heavily kind of weighed down by an ego and needing kind of some success to kind of validate myself, and lack of success or struggles kind of, you get humbled, but I feel like that's a great place to be, because then you find out if you really do want it. Right?
Yeah. That's another thing. Yeah. You find out if you do have the spine to hold up to all the bullshit and crap that's thrown at you, by so-called friends. So yeah, you really find out who you really are and who your friends are. And it's very, mind opening. It really takes off the blinders. It really takes off any kind of, I think Jimi Hendrix said it the best. He says, compliments distract me. Any kind of, applause, accolades, anything like that it's just leave it, just focus on what you want. And, getting back to the band that you saw, at Skinny's, that's where I was,
Yeah.
I saw that project, I made it happen. Then as soon as I closed that door, Mike Muir called, Misfits called. I asked just out of the blue. I was forming a new band, Dead Cross, full on hardcore, because at that time Bataclan got shot up, by terrorists.
Yeah.
I was just furious. And so I wanted to start a hardcore band, like straight up just brutal. And I just called, I said, well, the singer didn't want to complete the album that we had at the time. We had created this body of work, and the singer we had, had other responsibilities that he wanted to pursue, and which I'm totally, for him. He wanted to be there for his daughter, at that time. And I said, dude, just do your thing. So I went ahead and just went out on a limb and just, hey, Patton, I have this new band, Dead Cross, with Pearson and Crane. Want to sing? He said, me? Yeah, dude, come on. Okay, let's do it. And this was all through text. I know I did phone, but it was all through text. And, it was awesome. And just
the record's great. I remember I listened to it a little bit when it came out. Actually, I saw Dead Cross. I want to say you guys opened for Napalm Death at the Troubadour.
Oh, that was with the original singer.
I know, but I remember, I'll be honest, I wasn't a big fan of the singer. So it's like, hey, we're going to get like the best singer in the world. And like me, when it comes to especially heavy, more extreme stuff, what makes Patton so cool, so it's like the record he did with Dillinger, Escape Plan, where he will bring some of that really aggressive thing, but then he brings melody, he brings hook, he brings this other thing, and it always just elevates. Then it becomes something bigger than a hardcore band. It becomes something else, but it's fucking really good. I listen, like I said, I listened to almost everything you did, and I was like, this fucking record's great. I gotta spin this.
No, that one is it's a bit of a. There's certain records that I've done that are just okay, but then there's some that I feel that are like little masterpieces, that I really personally enjoy. And that Dead Cross album is one of them.
Did you get to tour on that?
Dead Cross, yeah. We did an extensive 2 tours of the States, 2-3-week tours of that first album in the States, I believe.
Very good.
We did about 6 or 7 weeks in Europe. And we did a Dead Cross tour with Patton. That's awesome. And it was hella fun. We did the US tour in a Sprinter van, which was a lot of fun. Come on, man. Van tours are great. Yeah, I love it.
My back is rough. How's your back?
You know what? Check this out.
You might be superhuman though, because you're already doing things that most people can't do with their body.
Well, it's funny. I've been doing this for so long that I've honed it in, and I know how to set up my kit. I've set up my kit so many times myself on tour and whatever. Even with Suicidal, we'll do a fly-in. Hey, Dave, we don't have a drum tech. You mind setting your kit up? Absolutely not. I'll go in there. Where's my kit? I'll set it up myself. And so I've done it so many times now that I'm able to play without my kit is ergonomically correct for me personally. There's nothing straining, everything's accessible, and it's right for me. So recently, ever since this COVID shit went down, pandemic, well, baby, let's eat, let's fucking drink, let's just have a great time. But I started noticing with all the drinking, I wasn't just buying, just a little bottle of booze, I bought vodka, I bought tequila, I bought rum, I even bought Baileys for my coffee in the morning.
Good Lord.
Yeah. It was fun for a couple weeks. And then so that tapered off, and I said, you know what? I can't drink. There's something about my body that I could immediately tell when I drink too much, I feel like I'm deteriorating. Yeah. It doesn't hurt to my joints, my muscles, everything.
It causes a lot of inflammation.
A lot of inflammation, yes. And I can't take any of that shit. So then we went on, okay, well, I love to cook. My wife and I, we love to cook. I mean, we make our own pasta. We do it all, whatever. So we were eating and having just a really good time. But then my back started hurting. I started gaining weight, getting a little pudgy.
Everyone got their quarantine 15.
Yeah.
I lost it, but.
Dude, and I got my quarantine beard, my quarantine beard.
Yeah, I never had facial hair in my life till now.
I've never grown a beard in my life. I always I just have a little bit like you do, but I never have grown a beard. And I told my wife, I'm gonna fucking grow a beard, And so then I started noticing I was getting heavy. My back was hurting. My shoulder was hurting. It's like, fuck, am I gonna need one of those shoulder operations? Mm-hmm. My rotator cuff went out. All right. So I was like, man, this isn't good. We need to cut back. And I knew it was the pasta. I knew it was the flour. I knew it was the sweets, the sugar in my coffee. So for the past 5 weeks, I've been on a super, super strict diet.
Yeah, me too. I'm like 2. Yeah, I'm like 2 months in.
You are. So you're in ketosis and everything?
I mean, I've been pretty good about it. Pretty consistent. I'll have like a cheat day or like a cheat meal every now and again. But I love it. I feel sharper.
Me too.
I feel lighter on my feet.
Me too.
You know, I have like kind of serious back issues. Like I probably need back surgery, and well, I'm supposed to get back surgery and insurance. So anyway, that's a whole other thing. But yeah, I do like it. And I think, especially because of my back, there's a lot of workout things I can't do. So I actually was doing this crazy yoga routine I had to stop because my back, my neck, my wrist. So when you can't do a lot of working out, diet is even more important. And if you're good with your diet, you can keep your weight down without having to do a lot of exercise.
Right.
I like to exercise. I just physically am limited right now.
Yeah. The only thing, I mean, what's good is walking.
Yeah.
Walking, you know, if you can get on a treadmill, if you could run a little bit,
well,
you know,
I don't know with all that ash outside in the apocalypse.
Yeah.
You're in LA, right?
Yeah. I'm in Central Coast. So we're getting a little fog, a little bit of ash, not so much the ash falling on the ground, but you could see it in the sky.
Well, the air quality, if you look at the reports, the air quality is really, really bad. So it's even kind of discouraged me from even walking lately.
Yeah. Not now. But getting back to the diet, I've noticed my back's not hurting.
Yeah.
My shoulder's not hurting. I'm just brighter. Everything just comes to me a lot quicker. It's not as cloudy. My mind isn't clouded as it was. And it's just hard to believe how much diet has so much influence on one's body. And
especially as we get older.
Pardon me?
Especially as we get older.
Yeah. The older you get, you know, the more sensitive you become. So I feel like I'm in a good place right now, and I think I'm only going to do this for probably the next few weeks, and then I'm going to go into more of a paleo diet, and then slowly ease myself into, you know, carbs and things like that. But man, I feel great because now I fit into all my clothes that I was able to fit in, you know, like 5-6 years ago, you know, so it's great. And it didn't take me long. It's taken me like 5 weeks.
Yeah. It
wasn't much, but it was enough to harm my ability, you know, and on my back, you know, it just, things didn't feel good, man.
Yeah.
And I see people that are, struggling, you know, with health. Sometimes I feel like just saying, oh man, if you only knew that just cutting this out of your diet will help you. And,
it's tough.
Drinking a lot of water. Drinking a lot of water is important too.
Very, very important. So I'm gonna ask you a few more questions about Slayer, and then we're gonna move on to something else. So there's this progression, Show No Mercy, Hell Awaits, and then there's this breakthrough. It seems songwriting, but also to me the biggest difference between Hell Awaits and Rain and Blood is just the production, the tones. It's so, even now, like there's something about the way Rain and Blood sounds, like almost like there's almost no reverb on the record. It's so like right there. There's something about the guitar tone, maybe my favorite Slayer guitar tone, even though it's actually not my favorite Slayer record, but the drum sound, everything kind of comes together. You know, what about Rick Rubin? Do you think, working with him was able to kind of focus and center and kind of get this extra thing out of the band at that time?
Well, he was essential in bringing this band to where, to where we got at that time. He was the mastermind. Him and Andy Wallace were the mastermind behind of.
So Andy was engineering?
Andy Wallace was engineering.
Yeah.
During that period. And Andy tracked the drums. I have a pretty good memory. And I remember, Rubin not wanting any kind of, reverb or ambient sounds. The drums were recorded in the room wasn't that big, but the entire band was definitely, we were all playing together. And his production, his mixing, Andy Wallace's mixing was all an integral part of the band's sound. It honed it in, kind of, put the point of an arrow. It's like, this is how it needs to be. And I think it was the best thing, or the best decision, or the best thing the band agreed upon was to not go against Rubin, at that time.
So I remember I had to play Angel of Death they have the jam night thing up in the Whiskey. And I remember and I hadn't, it's with a lot of Slayer when you're a guitar player, you stuff kind of, but when you actually have to play it and you have okay, let me actually learn this properly. And I remember I had to get a thinner pick, just to get, and I'm and I'm a thrash metal guitar player. That's my roots, So it's I'm pretty fast. I understand the chops, and I'm this almost sounds like when I'm physically playing it, I'm like the band was physically pushing themselves to the limitations of what you could do physically. And was that an intention, or was it a situation where you're writing material and just the adrenaline itself pushes it to that speed and that intensity? Or was there an actual concerted effort? We're going to be faster than everyone. We're going to be heavier than everyone. What? Because
I think, every song that is written that I've been a part of starts off at a slower tempo, because you're learning it. You're getting yourself, acclimated to the parts and all the changes and everything. So everything starts off slow. It gets to a point where it can be too fast. You can push the riff to
groove.
Pardon me?
You lose groove by getting too fast.
You lose groove, right? So I think one of the drummer's jobs should be to make sure that the rhythm is in the right pocket. For example, necrophiliac or necrophobic. Which one's on Rain and Blood? Necrophobic. Necrophobic. That particular song was recorded by, I remember I said, how fast do you guys want this? Because I was able to play it a little faster than normal. Not normal, but a little faster than what you hear. So I had to pull it back just a little bit so you can hear that little pickup, in the riff, that dun, 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 dun. So, you have to kind of find it. Otherwise, it just doesn't flow right.
When we toured together, because we toured together 2004, did Ozfest, and then we did Mayhem in 2009. And I remember me and you would kind of talk for some, you were one of the few people from the main stage come and hang out and and check us out, and it was badass. But you were, and I would watch you guys all the time, and when I would watch Slayer, and I feel very fortunate and very lucky to see the band with you and Jeff, of course, and that original lineup. And there's something, as amazing as Gary is, and Paul, amazing musicians. There's something about that an original lineup and something about that's just special. But I would just watch you all the time, I would just, and you told me about this, this idea around how you do a kind of thrash, a fast beat, kind of tuka, that you kind of think in these rhythm cycles. So it's almost like a halftime thing in your mind, and that gives it a swing to it, so that it even though it's fast, it's I call it the rabbits fucking. You ever see some metal bands just feel it's just tight and rigid and but rabbits fucking. Can you kind of explain that to the listeners, like what this concept around the pulse, I guess?
Wow. You're talking to someone that I didn't go to Berklee School of Music. I didn't I didn't go to these, where I could explain this. And then maybe, a scholar might be able to put it, in better words than I could. But what I was raised in a Cuban household, and we listened to a lot of Afro-Cuban rhythms and percussion and stuff like that. So that inside of me has kind of helped me understand rhythm different than how someone is taught in a school or a drummer is taught in a school. It is cyclic. I may be counting. Yeah, you may count the riffs. Okay, 4 of these riffs, but I'll count it as one.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll go through that riff.
Do you chart? You chart that way?
All I do is count. What I'll do is all right. I'll count it. I'll count the riff as 4 times, but I'll treat it as one. I don't chart it. I make my own little roadmap, and
as long as it makes sense to you.
Yeah, it makes it's total Chinese, but it's it's all scribbles and but it's really hard for me to explain. It's a feel thing.
I totally get it, because after you told it to me, I started watching you and I see you almost like flow in these like, and people can't see us right now, but it's like this, it is a circle thing, but it's, because to me, kind of like you, I grew up in a very eclectic household musically. My father's a jazz pianist. So I grew up with a lot of jazz, I'm biracial. So I, black music, R&B, everything you can kind of think of.
Yeah.
So I think when you come to heavy metal with diverse influences,
my God,
you can kind of like, for example, like you look at a band like Sepultura, very heavily influenced by Slayer, but there's this groove to Sepultura that only exists because of their culture.
Yep.
Right?
I totally agree. It's a different approach. You approach it differently. There are these innate rhythms that are just part of your DNA, and you approach regular, just standard 4/4 beats in a whole other way. And I play congas as well, and those patterns are very complicated. How you're moving around the congas, and when you apply that kind of approach or feel, your drumming is going to sound different. I feel that drummers, before they pick up drumsticks, they need to learn hand percussion and dive into straight up Nigerian folkloric drum rhythms to understand rhythm in its most purest form. Because if you learn that, that'll just help your basic
yeah. It's something kind of bigger and broader.
Yeah. It's funny, getting back to like 2009, when we were on tour together, during that period, I was listening to a lot of Romanian gypsy music.
I think you mentioned this.
Did I?
I think so.
Romanian gypsy music. There's a band called Pathos de Logos. These guys are faster than any thrash metal band ever, and they're playing stand-up bass, flute, violin, cymbalum, and these rhythms are just beyond fast. But I would listen to this music before I'd go on stage with Slayer, and I would adapt some of the rhythms and some of the drum rolls that I would have heard in that band or in that style or that genre of music. And then I would go on stage with Slayer, and then I would throw in some crazy drum rolls where Tom, I'll never forget, Tom would turn around and be like, what the fuck was that? You know? And not in a bad way, because they knew to trust me that I would always be on the one.
Yeah.
I may go off on a tangent, do this fucking crazy drum roll, but they knew that Lombardo was going to end up on the one. I never steered them wrong. And so, you know, that was a lot of fun. And I still do that when I'm comfortable with a band's music. You know, well, I'll go off. I'll even throw, you know, instead of playing a thrash beat, I'll straight up go into a hip hop beat, and the guitar players are all in thrash mode, and I'll cut that beat into a quarter, and you know.
But I feel like that's why people call you. Why are you going to get Lombardo? You know, it's funny because I was listening to some of the Suicidal records, and I feel like I feel it's a little restrained from what I want from you. Is that on purpose?
I was playing to a click.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a click. The majority of records, like the Mr. Bungle album, there was no click involved.
It's a rarity these days.
Pardon me?
It's a rarity these days.
Yeah.
You know, because producers and for editing, they, you know, just for that consistency. And you know, and the truth is, you know, probably a lot of drummers need so much editing, they want it to a click, you know, so, but
yeah,
Lombardo, they're like, we don't need that.
No. Unless they really want it, I'll do it. But for me, you know, the click definitely holds me back. What it actually does, it restricts the ebb and flow of the emotion in the music.
Yeah.
You know, whereas let's say you're going from one section to another, and, you know, in classical music, you feel it all the time, you know, where it rises and then you feel intensity, it goes into a more heavier part. Well, there's, you know, tempo changes throughout all these scores of music that you don't even realize. By even 5 BPMs, you know, it'll climb, you know, 5 BPMs, and then it'll climb again to a more, you know, faster tempo. So the click restricts you unless you are actually putting in your tempo map.
That's what God forbid, used to do, is our first 2 records, no click, straight to 2-inch tape. And then it was part of the sound, but it was, you know, things also were kind of inconsistent. So then we went to a click. So what we would do is we would essentially record our rehearsals and then tap out each section. And then we realized, oh, this section we kind of pushed, this section we kind of laid back, and then we essentially created tempo maps that reflected what we were naturally doing. And it's never perfect, obviously.
Yeah. But at least it gave it that kind of
yeah. Well, yeah, and it's just that's how it works sometimes. So I got a couple more questions. One more question about. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna move on from Slayer. Actually, because I want to. I don't want to take up too much of your time, and there's other things you've done that are, you know, when you started gripping ink, that was like, it's funny because I went back and listened to this record and I forgot like that record Nemesis was one of my favorite records when I was like in high school, and I was like listening to it, I was like getting back all these memories. I was like, I used to fucking listen to this album over and over again, and it's such, to me, a weird thing because it's, you know, there was just this odd section in the mid 90s where there was this whole influx of, I don't know if you call it groove metal, or it was like this really unique period where I feel like to some degree, a lot of those bands kind of got lost to time to some degree. Like people don't talk about them as much anymore. But at that time, I remember, it's funny because you guys were playing Birch Hill nightclub in New Jersey. Mm-hmm. And
I remember that show. So, hot as fuck, and it was small.
Dude, there's half the show is on YouTube from Bird Show.
Really?
Yeah, and it sounds sick actually. I wish the guitars were louder. But
The venue, Birch Hill, was in it was almost like in the woods.
yeah,
right?
but they would so that was the show I saw Slayer at, where they put 2,600 people in that room. That
Wow.
and that and legal capacity was 1,400. Like that 1,400 is too packed, and they put 2,600 people. But anyway, I didn't go to the show, but we ended up. But we were all the guys in God Forbid were like landscaping, and after Corey, I think, went to like, you were signing at Vintage Vinyl that day, like you did. So like that was going on, but I remember it was like kind of a big deal. But so you leave Slayer. How does even Grip Inc. even come to pass? Because the two main guys, Gus and Waldemar, are like, Gus is British and Waldemar is Polish, but he lived in Germany. Like, how do you even meet these guys? How do you even get together? How does this even happen?
Well, shortly after, when I left Slayer in 92, I think it might have been January of 92 or something like that. I was hit up by a German pop star by the name of Philip Boa. He was he was a pop star, pop musician, dance music. That's what he was known for. And he hit me up and said, "Hey, I want you to be a part of this project." And basically, he was stepping out of his norm, which was obviously dance music. It was called Philip Boa and the Voodoo Club, and he wanted to start a metal band called Voodoo Cult. So I was like, "Wow, love the name." I looked him up at that time, or really, no, I couldn't look him up. I had to ask people, who is this guy, But, he was cool, send me some information, whatever. And I agreed. When he was going to send the producer, we're going to record the album in Los Angeles. He was going to come down with his crew, everybody, and we're going to record the drum tracks. And so he said, but a week prior, I'm going to send my producer and guitar player to the States. And so here comes this little long-haired kid, which you're a producer? I kind of second guessed. And but I started jamming with this guy, and I was blown away by how fluid our ideas developed. And he was able to follow my patterns, my changes. It was, like I said, it was very fluid, and his guitar playing was, for me, exceptional. Better than what I was part of. And
He's the real deal. Really had it's interesting because you listen to the first record, Power of Inner Strength, and there's enough Slayerisms, I would say, in there, I guess, to make it
Hostage to Heaven.
Yeah, but no, I think a lot of that, when it comes to anytime you have like the guy from one band who starts the next band, if it's too different from what they did, people are going to be like kind of bummed out. But I think you kind of laid a bridge. I don't know if that was on purpose or not, but there is enough in common that it makes sense. But then I feel like on Nemesis, the band found its own sound, and it was like, there's just something, I don't know, man. There's just, it almost pisses me off that people don't talk about the band more, because I think, what it actually reminds me of, and it's in a weird way, it felt like it was miles apart, but to some degree it was contemporary. It was the band The Haunted, to me, sounds like, especially Peter Dolving, the original singer who came back, like it's The Haunted to me is almost like Grip Inc. Part 2, even though I don't think they were like ripping it off. I just think it's just kind of a coincidence that it has these similar tonalities, the vocal style, diversity between kind of thrash underpinning, but this like melody rock thing. I don't know, man. It's just I don't know. I just fucking loved it. And I don't, and did the band?
It was very special. That music, is exceptional.
Gus, man, that dude by the way, rest in peace, Gus. Passed away, a few years ago.
Yeah.
And
big regret in my life in not reaching out to Gus, a couple years, 3 years before.
Yeah.
I wish I could have, gone on one more tour. And to this day, I wish he was alive.
Yeah.
He was a masterful singer, brilliant fucking singer.
So good.
So I found Valdemar through the production on Voodoo Cult. And then after the production, I was so impressed. I asked him if he wanted to join a band or put a band together with me. And he agreed. And the singer question came up. And it was funny. This conga player, Cuban dude, Leo Perez. I was talking to him about it. He was giving me some conga lessons at that time. It was 93, something like that. And 92, not about around 93. And I told him I was looking for a singer, and I said, I don't know, heavy rock, a punk rocker, something like that. And he said, hey, I know this girl that works at my office. She said her husband is a British punk rock singer and vocalist. And I'm like, send me a tape. So he got a hold of a tape that he had demo tape called Sons of Domination. And I heard his voice, Doc. I was like, I want him. I want that singer. I saw this dude and I was like, okay, he's a singer. He's got
the thing.
He's got the thing. And boy, was that one of the greatest choices that I had made in getting a vocalist. He was just on point. He was a little rusty at first, but then he found his groove, and he was, by the time we released our third, fourth record, he was on it.
What was your vibe at
the first record? Even by the first one, he was on point. But Valdemar as a producer had to kind of put the guardrails up, because he was obviously at heart a 100% true punk rocker.
Yeah, but he had some real chops in terms of being able to have a versatility. And and I'm always really impressed with like singers that can scream in key, like that, or gritty kind of, where it has the heaviness, but also is able to craft a melody.
Yeah,
which is and those people are rare that can actually that have that skill set, and also very interesting lyrics. I don't know if he wrote all the lyrics, if you guys helped too, but I thought
he wrote all of them. But he would reach out, and say, hey, should I say this here or this here? And I said, well, Gus, that doesn't sound too good right there. There's an innuendo there. I see where it's going, but that's not going to fly. And so we would help, but he wrote probably 95% of everything.
So what was your kind of just headspace, leaving Slayer? I imagine there was, even though you're from what I know, a fairly cavalier individual, I mean, what kind of, fear and anxiety for you, if any, revolved around starting fresh, or kind of, was the phone ringing to join another band? Were you kind of like considered damaged goods? What was your vibe, kind of leading up before even Gripping started?
Sam Hain hit me up during that period to join the band.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never forget receiving a package from him, and it was all these crazy posters and music, and but at the time I had already, I was already starting to form Grip. So I didn't, go in that realm, into that world. I was headstrong, positive.
Yeah.
This is what I do. This is what I love. I'm going to keep putting records out. And, same as, since, when I left the band at the Slayer in 2013, same thing, same headspace, which is, I don't care what level or what, I'm just doing it because I love it, and that's it. So, but I had a very proud moment when I heard my release, The Power of Inner Strength, and then heard Slayer's release, Diabolus Musica. When I heard those, I heard, the introduction to Diabolus, and then I heard mine, Grip Incorporated. I was like, fuck yeah.
you had that little competition in you. Well, because that's a record, a lot of fans feel like is not, at the level of some of the records, even though I think Diabolus has some great moments. There's some song Bitter Peace is fucking sick. And, the first, there's some good songs in there, but I understand the backlash and everything. And I get that too, of kind of, it's tough, it's in many ways like a shadow, like Slayer is so big that it's not worth trying to kind of battle that or trying to fit that. It's like, no, just kind of move on that path. Was Grip Inc. fairly successful?
Yeah, we were doing really well. We were playing the festival circuit in Europe. We were on tour, pretty consistent. Yeah. I think that that we, there were some conflicts, within the band, particularly at that time. I think Gus and Valdemar were having, some conflict, and, I had some conflict, with the bass player. It's just, there was normal band bullshit, so then after in 99, I was called, Patton called me, and we started working on Fantomas, and slowly Fantomas was gaining momentum, and, I didn't want to deal with any of the, headache or bullshit. And, slowly Grip Incorporated, while we never really disbanded or broke up.
Yeah. Things just dissolved kind of naturally.
Well,
it's kind of insane. In 1999, you put out Solidify by Grip Inc. You put out the first Fantomas record. And then you also put out Testament the Gathering, which is, talk about 1 year. I'm sure some of it was recorded in the previous year, but to have all that potent kind of creative energy out there, all different stuff. Testament the Gathering, it's my favorite Testament album. One, there's just something, it's literally almost like Rain and Blood. There's something about the way it's just shoots out the speakers. I think it's the best sounding Testament album. It's my favorite. It's probably my favorite drum tone, that record. And then this is a little weird, is Metallica Garage Inc. I love the fucking drum.
I love that album. I think that's a brilliant album.
But there's something about the drum sound. And I know, did Eric Peterson produce it and then Andy Sneap mixed it, or who?
No, Andy Sneap recorded it.
He did record it.
Yeah, he recorded it. And, I had one of the greatest times with a band, with Testament, as a band unit. Eric Peterson, was amazing, and of course, everybody in the band. But Eric would pick me up, 10:30, 11 o'clock, from the hotel, foggy San Francisco, Oakland vibe. picks me up. We go to Pete's Coffee, pick up a Danish, pick up my coffee, and we just sit there and we just contemplate the world and just chat before we go into the studio and start writing.
So you wrote that whole record with them too, not just, you didn't just record music after that had been written.
No. You see, the music world doesn't, not the music world, fans really don't understand this one aspect of songwriting, is that, if you're a drummer, and this is something I didn't learn until way later in my career, if you're a drummer and you walk into a room and you start writing music, that makes you, and you start working with a guitar player and you start working on parts, putting parts together, experimenting with certain roles. Hey, suggesting, why don't we put a break here? Hey, I made a mistake. That was a great mistake. Can you make that mistake again? Sure, I'll do it again. Because initially I thought maybe, I was supposed to go into the B section 2 bars earlier. But instead, I went somewhere else. I don't know. But the guitar player likes that mistake. So you basically wrote part of that song. Well, every Slayer album I've been a part of, I've been in the room with Kerry from the beginning of that song. He may have written 2 riffs or 3 riffs, and the drum beat is tupa, 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 and then it goes into a double bass. All right, that's all he knows. But everything in between, he's not telling me to do. So technically, under law, songwriting, copyright law, if you walk into a room with somebody, you're walking with a musician and you guys work on a body of music, you're basically co-writing.
You weren't compensated that way in Slayer.
I was no. From day one, they threw in my mind, not threw in my mind, put into my mind that because I didn't have a stringed instrument, I wasn't a songwriter.
That's bullshit. I'm sorry, like that. I think it's such.
Let
bullshit.
me tell you, I was when I got into Slayer and we started writing music, I was 17 years old, 16 years old. I was a kid. I didn't know anything about copyright law.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of, internet Rambos, they say, oh, he didn't write anything. He didn't. You know what? I was there from the beginning on all those songs.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you put a song together, to me, there's obviously now with technology, like I can go on my computer with programmed drums and write every note of everything and say, here, I wrote a song. But, with God forbid, it was always, I would come with a riff or someone would come with a riff or whatever. But it's like we wrote, to me, the act of physically creating the songs was a group effort, regardless of who came up with what part, where it was a collective effort. And to me, even if it's not like 100% equal, I think if we're working on songs together, everyone gets publishing. Even if it's not, oh, maybe that person gets 25, that person gets 10, whatever. But everyone should get something because that, to me, it's like all about that elevation, right? Yeah. Like even like this person brings this thing and has a suggestion or whatever. If like my bass player's playing a bass riff, I didn't tell him to play all those notes. It's like, you know what I'm saying? Or I'm not. Yeah. So that's all part of it. So I don't really get that kind of, I call it the squirrel, like hiding the nuts, like just hoarding. Like it's a very, I don't know, there's something like really toxic about it. And it's because because listen, God forbid, we never really got that successful. So there was nothing really to ever fight over really. But now that I'm in a bigger band, in a Bad Wolves, and band I'm in now is, had all the success, I'm just seeing a whole different side to the music industry of like, when there's real stuff out there, it's like things just get a lot more serious and they get more, the stakes are higher and it becomes a little less personal, unfortunately.
Yeah, it does. And you can't deny that, that there's a lot of squirrel hoarders. No, hoarding the squirrels out there. But that's something you learn, and there's some songs on the recent Christ Illusion, on the 2 albums I did on World Painted Blood.
Yeah.
I received publishing across the board on those
Awesome.
records.
Good.
So it's good. And that was the one thing I asked, it's like, oh, I'm going to come back into the band. It ain't much, but hey, okay.
Take what you can get, right?
Pardon me?
Take what you can get, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. I went on a tangent, and now I don't remember how to get back to it.
That's all right. That's all right. Well, we'll talk about. Let's go back to we were talking about The Gathering and kind of how you were helping putting those songs together.
Yeah, we wrote all that music, together in the room, in a room, and we had a great time. And, I think I'm credited on 2 or 3 songs on there, which I think it should have been more, but it was what it was.
Yeah.
So that experience with Testament was brilliant.
By the way, I saw that tour at the Birch Hill again with a different band, and that was with The Haunted. Do you remember? And I think because you, I know you toured with Testament, but you didn't do that much touring.
No, we did only 1 U.S. tour.
Yeah.
Yeah, because at that time, then Fantomas started taking off.
Yeah.
In 99 and then 2000. And then shortly after that, early
Slayer.
2002, Slayer. Yeah. And then slowly Slayer started taking over. They wouldn't give me time to do my other projects. And, so I had to kind of wean myself out of Fantomas, and it was a difficult, very difficult time.
Well, I think it's almost a I'd say like the downside of being successful or being in demand of you can only be in so many places at one time. And I think you're like me, where you have a diversity of interests, you have a diversity of I know that when I'm just doing Bad Wolves, where, if we have 6 months of touring in a row or something, it kind of turns my brain into jello, because it's Groundhog Day. You got this set list and these group of songs, and I'm only kind of flexing these particular muscles, and I feel like other things atrophy.
Yeah.
And so I like mixing it up. All right, I'm coming off this tour. Let's work on this side project, and let's work with this band, and let's work. I do things like the podcast as well, and that works different parts of my brain and kind of creative soul. I mean, how do you keep, how do you know you're not doing too much? Because right now I feel like obviously everything is kind of tamped down now with the pandemic, but it's like you're doing so many different cool things. I mean, when do you know to say no to something?
Yeah, I've been to that point, and I've said to myself, no more. You can't take it on. It's like, I appreciate. I got hit up to do some of those videos that everyone was doing.
Yeah, the jam ones. I did a couple too. They're time consuming.
Yeah, exactly. I did too, and I got hit up several times, and I'm like, I can't. For one, there were too many out there.
Yeah.
And I felt that there was, a few individuals that were burning it out.
Gets diluted.
Pardon me?
It gets diluted.
Yeah, totally diluted. I didn't want to be a part of it. So I said, that's it. No more of that. You get to a point. It really has to do with your homework, the amount of homework you have, because even though, these are right now I'm working on having to relearn the Bungle stuff. There might be something in the future that might happen. So I have to be ready just in case. So I have to relearn that music, and it's not simple music. It's maybe thrash, but there's a lot to that music. And then I have this other project I have to go at the end of at the end of September, I have a session, and this one is high profile, and I'm really excited about it. So right now I am focusing, I have 2 folders on my mixing console, and those 2 are what are the notes to everything that I have to learn. And also I got to get rid of all these COVID cobwebs, not playing, and just, really buckle down and, get the body ready for some damage.
By the way, I had one more question about Testament the Gathering I forgot to ask. It's about just drum tones, in that you can kind of, between, Slayer early days through Grip Inc. and then the Gathering, you see this real evolution in modern metal drum sound, right? Yeah. Like Slayer kind of was exemplified this idea of the organic, kind of well-recorded but almost raw, like I'm in the room with the drum set. And then by the time the Gathering, and and Andy Sneap is one of the key figures in developing this sound, along with the way Pantera kind of changed their drum sound, and Colin Richardson and the stuff he was doing. How do what's your kind of opinion on that evolution? Because I love both. Like, even the new Bungle has like this really kind of organic sound, but it fucking sounds great. And then you have that more kind of pristine, sharp, where the kick drums get a little more kind of that click oriented element. I mean, what's your feeling on that evolution, and do you have a preference?
In the beginning, I really liked it, because it was basically the
beginning of what?
Let's say in '92, the onset of computers, and everybody was able to buy a computer, and then all this software started. Cubase started developing all this software, and people were able to industrialize an acoustic drum set, make it sound almost electronic, or industrial. And at first it was very cool, because I embraced it. On the Power of Inner Strength album with Grip Incorporated, I wanted a more industrial sound.
Yeah, you can hear that.
Pardon me?
You can hear that. It's like, because like I said, that's what was going on. You had bands like Ministry and Little Fear Factory, and all that stuff was kind of in the water at the time.
Yeah. And Korn and Coal Chamber, that whole scene also was influencing drum sounds, with a little more of that clicky bass drum sound, which was all very cool. But then I think drummers started to try to emulate that sound, and then adding triggers, and then just the triggers just didn't do it for me, because I didn't see the drummer putting out
hard.
Sweat.
Playing hard.
Exactly, yeah. Breaking a sweat. It's like, really? I was so disappointed. I was on one of these metal cruises, and I went to go see a band, and this band, I was watching the drummer, and I was so disappointed, because here I'm hearing this this double bass, all these insane drum sounds, but I was backstage and I was watching the drummer, and when he was supposed to be playing fast double bass, he was only playing singles.
Well, no, you know what people are doing, right? They have kick drums on the track. Some artists actually have, so his kicks might not even been in the mix at all. Right.
That's exactly what I was hearing. I was seeing a drummer and his toms, he was going over the toms, and I was really confused, because I was listening to the drums, and I was supposed to go up onto that drum set. I was the next guy going up to that drum set to play, some music with some other musicians. So they had the opening band. So when I went up to the kit, the drums were out of tune. There was nothing. They were dead. It's like he wasn't even using them.
Yeah.
And the mics were there just, I guess, for looks. But Doc, man, I saw this and I was like disgusted. And they were hiding behind the light show, hiding behind all the strobe lights. Here's this super heavy band, but he wasn't playing. I was so sad. I was like, I'm so disgusted. That's what basically half of these drummers do back there. And so when these kids, these internet Rambos, come onto your news feed, oh, this drummer's better. Oh, this drummer's better. And then I listen to those drummers, and what I'm hearing is programmed drums. I'm hearing, Steve Slate drums is what I'm hearing, and it's so it's sad.
Well, the world, unfortunately, the world I see of at least on the more mainstream kind of crossover side of heavier music and kind of radio world that I'm involved in, it's like a lot of those people on the kind of executive A&R level, and they just don't care, because it's all about the hook, or it's all about the vocal, or it's all about the looks or whatever, and to some degree that audience doesn't really care. I think in metal it does matter, when you look at like Megadeth, for example, a lot of the changes that, like when Chris Adler did a record with them, like that mattered because Chris brings a style and brings a personality, drum wise to a band, and I think it definitely matters because the metal world is still kind of like, it's always going to be a little underground, right? It's always going to be, we still tend to put some premium on the individual musicianship. Like it matters who's playing guitar, who's playing bass, and we care, especially if you have a history, because people have been developed, that's how it was. It was like, you didn't just care about the band, you read the notes and you watched the documentaries, and you wanted to be, those personalities were really part of who it is, which is why, like, when you came back to Slayer, it was such a big deal, because like, that's our guy. Or like with God Forbid, when my brother left the band, it just wasn't the same, and that is something I think for the real metal scene is always going to matter, hopefully at least. But I think it is sad though, because, I think the drums are one element of modern metal where it has lost a personality. People don't have their own definitive sound anymore. Drummers, it's, they're, everyone's edited, everything is quantized, everything, so it's, and I get it. Like some of it is just the fact that people don't have budgets. I think, sometimes being expedient takes, and being productive and being quick and being efficient kind of overtakes just this kind of more artistic, organic element of things.
Yeah, it definitely has. And when they say, drum machines have no soul, that couldn't be more true, and it's plain and simple. It's in our face. It's like you go ahead and quantize it and put it through all this, the sequencer or whatever it is that you're using, you're going to lose it. And I think drummers need to spend a little more time in rehearsal and working with the band instead of rushing through it. Oh, we'll fix it in editing. Oh, we'll fix it here. It's like, no, man, get it right,
Yeah.
But it's the way it is. You can't do anything about it. What is important is knowing that this tool is there. Don't use it unless you absolutely need to.
Yeah.
I there's albums I do use click track, but I would like and prefer not to, because then you have the actual soul moving, the song, the tempo. In Slayer, World Painted Blood was what they would do. Is Greg Fiddleman. He was an amazing producer. I'm so happy I got to work with that guy because I learned a lot. He would start the click off and then shut it off like after the first quarter of the song. Once a song gets going, he'll cut it off, and then I'll take over.
He's just setting the tempo. I heard that's what Joey Jordison did for a while live. Like they would just to get him in the vicinity, and then that's important because sometimes you're so excited, especially live, that the guitar players can't play the riff because I've been there.
I know. I mean, not that I know that I've seen
yelling back at Corey, slow down.
Corey, come on, slow it down, man. Go sing the riff in your head, But yeah, you have to, kind of be conscious of tempo and just know that those tools are there for you, but don't overuse them. Don't abuse it, man, because you're just gonna sound. You're not gonna have that individual personality to your playing. And like I said, I'm really proud of this Bungle record because when you listen to it, there's no click track, and some of those tempo changes are purposely there. This is the way they wrote the song.
Yeah. So listen, I only have a couple more questions. I want to thank you again for taking your time. It's a pretty longer interview. Like I said, you have so many. Your career is so vast. We can only get to so much, and I understand that. So, just ask you a couple more questions. So, Slayer, retired, at least from a live realm recently. Is there any kind of like regret on your end about not being able to take part, or do you lament that Slayer is no longer? I know that it's still kind of going to exist in a business form, but it's not going to be a live thing. Like, what's your kind of feelings about just that whole thing kind of? Not going to be in the format that is anymore.
Well, when I was in the band, I knew Tom wanted to retire. I knew he wanted to stop.
Yeah.
And, actually, Carrie and I were going to start a new band after Tom's retirement, and we were actually scouting guitar players, and we were at Slayer was playing. What was that festival? Hellfest, and we said, hey, let's go see Exodus. And so Carrie and I walked over to the stage where Exodus was playing, and we stood on the side of the stage left, and we were watching Gary. And Jeff was still in the band. Jeff was still playing. Jeff was fine. And we said, I told him, I go, there's our guy right there. That's the guitar player we need. And it just turns out that as life went on, we needed to replace Jeff. And we had basically, we didn't tell Gary. I don't think we had told Gary that Carrie and I were going to start a new band. But, he was the first choice when, that moment came. And I agreed. Everybody agreed, and so and Jeff agreed as well because Jeff was he knew, basically he knew. So do I have any? As far as I'm concerned, I played the first show with Slayer, the original Slayer, and I played the last show with the original Slayer.
Yeah.
And I'm happy there.
Yeah.
So, it was a brilliant band, made some history, and I wish them well, but there's nothing, man. Doc, I'm just like, I'm happy in my world, man. I'm happy.
No, I can tell. I can tell. You don't seem like someone who, because we know these people who the live in the past guys, don't you remember when and did the thing, and I get it. We've been going over a lot of stuff that previously happened, but we're approaching it and not trying to relive it, or we're just kind of talking about experiences. But we know people like that get stuck, in these moments, and
that's what brings them down. That's what brings them down. When you stay in the past and stay, just thinking about shit and, resentment and all this. And it's not healthy. And the best way is just to, keep moving forward. And I look at the future, I'm looking like, wow, okay, 55, I could put out this many records, this many tours. If it wasn't for the fucking pandemic, I'd be on stage right now.
Are you ever worried about breaking, like not being able to play the stuff you could previously play? I mean, obviously, because you don't technically, you're not in Slayer, so you don't have to play those songs. But I imagine Suicidal and Misfits, it's not quite as taxing as Slayer said.
But Dead Cross and Mr. Bungle, is brutal. Yeah, that takes breath away sometimes. I'm like, that was a motherfucker. The last tour Mr. Bungle did. Oh man, I think I had COVID because I was in Brooklyn second week of February and I got sick. And I got so sick. I had a fever. I had to play a show in San Francisco with Mr. Bungle, and I had a fever. I was brutally sick. And my wife told me, Dave, that you during that fever, at night, my body was just so hot, and she just never seen anything like that before, or felt me like that.
How long did it last?
I think it started after like the first show in Brooklyn, because I remember I woke up that day of the show. There were 2 shows, and I remember waking up the second day kind of sick and thinking to myself, wow, socializing with everybody, or the plane trip, I must have caught something. And I remember waking up the next day feeling unusually. It was a different flu. Now I know flus, develop through time, and as you get older, your body, reacts to the flu a little bit differently. And I've noticed that. It's like, man, I've never been this sick before. This is maybe 2-3 years ago, but with this COVID one, I felt something different. And I'm curious to know one day if I did have it, if there's an antibody or whatever in me. But both Patton and I, and we all discussed on, through text that, that they feel that Trey had it, Trey's wife had it, Patton had it, and I had it. All of us were sick. And, during that period. And we all feel we had some form of it. And, it didn't hit us, in a very negative way, but we got pretty fucking sick.
All right, well, sounds pretty negative to me. So I got one more question.
Yeah. Wait, real quick.
Sure.
Do I think that there's going to be a day? I hope not. I'm going to, I want to play until the very end. I want to, I want to play as long as I can.
Are you friends with Bill Ward?
Yes.
Because I know that was like a big, point of contention with him not being able to do the farewell tour, and and I saw him play not that long ago, and he definitely looked like it was it's tough. I mean, he's an older guy, and it takes its toll. I mean, I don't know if you talked to him about anything like that.
No, not really. When we talk, we talk more of a positive things.
Yeah.
So, that doesn't come up. I talked to him might have been April or May. I gave him a call, and we had like this 2-hour conversation. It was just brilliant. And, he picks my brain, I pick his, and, we share ideas and stuff like that. But he's doing well. That whole Sabbath thing, I don't know if you read recently that Ozzy really regrets not playing those last shows with Bill.
Well, I'll tell you what, he, in 2004, the tour we did together, he was slamming.
Oh, he was great.
He sounded great.
Yep. He was brilliant. And, he would have been, I think great on this last tour as well. But, shit happens.
Yeah, business. Well, yeah. So, like I said, the one thing I wanted to ask you about before we go is you got to do a few songs with Metallica. I think it was it 2015? I forget what year it was. And that was
15.
Was it? 14? I don't know. I couldn't find the actual date, or I'm just bad at doing research. But it was a download festival, and I guess Lars got sick or something. I don't know the official story. Maybe you do. But but like Joey Jordison did some songs. I think a few different drummers who were playing that day. Did the songs you played, did you know them beforehand, or did you have to
I had to listen to the songs. I was like, fuck, I got to learn these. And I remember.
How long did you have? How much time?
2 hours.
Jesus.
3 hours.
Jesus Christ.
2 or 3 hours.
Did you get to practice with them?
Yeah, to practice with them. We practiced the songs, and it was an amazing moment. It was great. I loved playing those songs. I think it's Four Horsemen.
Battery.
And Battery, yeah. I didn't know any of the newer music. I would have done those, but Joey took over. So I was able to do the first two songs of the set. That was brilliant. When I went into the double bass, and at the end of the song.
I was like, that's not on the original, right?
No.
Yeah.
No.
I was listening to it. I was like, is that... Does Lars play that?
No, I added a little more to it. I threw them that loop. I like throwing guitar players and frontmen on these little drum loops. It's like, what is he doing? Like the look on Hetfield's face was priceless, and I'll never forget that look. And he was gleaming with, he was happy, excited.
Yeah, you're saving the day.
Pardon me?
When you have someone, a band member who can't do a show, and someone comes in, especially of your stature, it's like you're saving the day.
Yeah,
it's a great. And then when someone comes in and fills in, they kill it. It's like it's a real thank the heavens kind of moment.
Yeah, it was great. And the rehearsal, before we went on stage, and we went through the songs, the reaction of Hammett. When I went down, when I started playing the breakdown beat in Four Horsemen, and I gave it a real funky swing. He was like, "That's it, that's supposed to be." It was great, and playing with Trujillo and it was a very, very memorable night, and I was very happy and proud to be a part of it and part of history, and I think it's so cool.
That's awesome. Oh, by the way, I said that was the last question. I have one more.
Yeah. Dude, I'm in pandemic. I got nothing to do.
Well, I got a little puppy there I got to check on, and I got to go to the chiropractor in a little bit, but I try to keep it, plus, the listeners, I try and keep it within reason. And I definitely don't want to monopolize your time, and I really appreciate it. Yeah. So here's the one question. So, the beat basically where you have the kick on the one, and then the ride is doing eighth notes, ding, 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 so you can do it half time, kick, kind of or the ding, 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 ding. Were you the first person to do that, or
Hanneman wrote that piece on his drum machine?
Really?
Yeah. Yep.
So, but that, I just feel like I associate that with you, but I'm just trying to think of another drummer.
Well, I brought it to life.
Yeah.
No, there wasn't anything like that. He wrote it, but obviously I played it. But no, he did it. He programmed his drum machine. That's one thing I loved about Jeff. And if a guitar player comes to me and says, hey, this is what I wrote, I'm going to play it the way he wants me to play it.
Yeah.
Wrote it. I was, I loved it. It was eerie. It was kind of different. I'd never heard anything like that before at that time. So, that's an awesome piece.
Well, no, but that became a staple to me of in the sound and your style. And I was like, had any drummer ever done that before? I don't know. And to me, and still no one does it quite like you do. So
yeah, it's that swing, man. It's a swing.
Do you have a favorite Slayer record?
The one that holds the most memories, positive memories, uh, probably would be World Painted Blood.
Interesting. Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
It was Hanneman's last effort.
Yeah.
It was Hanneman. Hanneman was writing like a madman during that period. He hardly wrote anything for Christ Delusion. And from what I heard, he really wasn't writing much while I was gone. It was basically, Carrie writing all the music. So for him to come in and have this much enthusiasm during that period, it's really special. And of course, since it's the most recent album that I recorded with Slayer, the memories are very vivid.
Yeah.
It's so much. It's just great. That's one of my favorites, I think.
I grew that album. I grew to really appreciate it because I used to bartend at a bar called Duff's in Brooklyn.
Oh, okay.
And it was the World Painted Blood is the most popular song played in the bar on the jukebox. So sometimes they'll put in money if you press P, that's popular. So it's the default song that will get played. So it's like I've heard it so much. I was like, at first I thought it was a good record, but I was like, no, this is like a classic Slayer song. But after going through my little Slayer binge last night, I'm like, you know what? I think South of Heaven might be my favorite record. Like just song for song. To me, it's like it's so. This is the kind of the underrated element of Slayer to me is just the actual like catchiness and actual like pure songwriting element of something being iconic and being it being just something that just sticks in your mind and just the craftsmanship of everything. It's just something about that.
Something so different following Rain and Blood, is very interesting about that album. That album. My first reaction to the mixes for that album was like, why is he putting the drums up so loud?
For Rain and Blood?
No, for South of Heaven.
Really?
Yeah, I felt like the drums. I mean, listen to all of the songs. I felt like the drums were very up front. It wasn't the Rain and Blood mix.
Yeah,
there was a balance in the Rain and Blood mix.
I have to listen to it through that context now. I never thought about it that way.
Are very dry. They pop, and they're in your face. And I remember sending a message or telling the guys, dude, the drums are too loud. Don't you think we should bring the drums down? But Rubin, he liked my playing and he, kept it there up front.
Well, listen, if you don't do air drums to the fills of the intro of South of Heaven, then you're just not a metalhead. So just get out of it.
Yeah.
Well, what's that?
I still remember all that. See?
It's iconic. Well, listen, brother, thank you so much for taking your time. This is I just like Jimi Hendrix doesn't like compliments. I had to wait this long to really compliment you, but you're my favorite drummer, period. Doesn't, any genre. And so it's just been an honor just in general for you to be, so amenable over the years, when, how it is between bands of this band's this level, this band, this level, a lot of people kind of follow those lines and you never had any of those divisions and you were always just so welcoming individually. And it's just always been a pleasure to actually, have a camaraderie with you for all these years. And just, like I said, you were at the top of my mind ever since I started this show. And it's also inspirational to me. And I think other artists out there to understand that you got to keep moving and that it's like the name of that. I think a part of it that Grip Inc. album, Power of Inner Strength, right? It's like you have to kind of manifest your own destiny to a certain degree with, okay, I'm not doing this thing, but I'm going to be doing another thing and it's going to be sick.
Yeah. Yeah, man. You just, if there's anything I could ever, say to any musician or to inspire somebody, it's like I got lucky, and I was part of something at a very young age, very young. I was the youngest guy in Slayer, 16, 17 years old when I first met these guys. And if there's something I have to say, it's just, if you love something enough, keep working at it. It doesn't matter at what level you're at. Like, you've seen me in a fucking little club, 20 people, or you can watch me fucking play sold out Madison Square Garden with the Misfits. Okay. It's just stay focused. It doesn't matter. Just love what you do and enjoy every moment, because one day it might not be there, but at least, you tried, you did it. And, even if you're playing in your garage with just a bunch of dudes, just hanging out, having a couple beers, relaxing, that's even fun, and having your day job, do it. It just doesn't matter at what stage in the game. Just keep playing, man. There's nothing better and more gratifying than having a love for music. And I don't know. I've just found it very medicinal at times, even though it's not something you can take, but music is, people have told me, dude, your music is, your drumming has saved me from the worst times in my life. I did this drum clinic tour. Let me just say this story real quick. And there was this little kid, and he wrote me a letter in English. He transcribed it, Google Translate. And it was the most heartbreaking story. And they traveled, I don't know how long they walked to come to my drum clinic and to give me this letter. And this little kid, he couldn't have been more than 16 years old, apparently abused, kicked out of the house at that age by his parents, his dad, I don't know, alcoholic, whatever. And just a really sad story. But, he was just determined to be there, and they walked, I don't know how many miles. And, if you can do that and help somebody and inspire them through their most difficult times, that to me is satisfying. And it just makes your whole purpose and existence that much confirmed, or you've been affirmed that you're doing something other than for yourself. And so that, I feel, is in a lot of ways important, for not only like for me and my satisfaction in the things that I've done, no matter how big or how small. It's just important, and for people just to continue to play and, have fun. You only got one life, man. Enjoy it.
Right on. Well, that's a great place to wrap it up. Dave, thank you so much. You have an excellent day, and I'll be in touch,
too,
brother.
Doc.
Thank you, man.
Hey, Doc, and I never said this online, but my condolences.
Oh, thank you.
All right?
Hey, man.
Yeah.
Such is life. Man. All right. Man. You take care, brother.
Take care, dude.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.
So that track is entitled Raping Your Mind, and it is from the new Mr. Bungle. I guess it's new old because it's a re-recording of the demo. It's called The Raging Wrath of the Easter Bunny Demo. What a fucking great name for an album. And yeah, that was the first track released off it. And of course, Dave Lombardo appears on it. Scott Ian is in the band now from Anthrax. I mean, it was funny because I remember when Mr. Bungle did some shows, before all the COVID happened, and it was like I was on tour and I couldn't go to the shows. And I remember looking at some live footage and I was expecting to hear, Mr. Bungle songs, and it was this thrash metal grind thing. I'm like, what the hell is this? And I was completely taken aback by it. And when I heard that song, I was like, holy shit, that's a banger. It really is. And I actually bought that I pre-ordered on Bandcamp, and it'll be out on Halloween, I believe. I think that's what Dave said, or something like that. But yeah, it's amazing. That conversation was incredible. I think one of the more in-depth ones I've done. Dave is so open, in a really, generous way. And I said it to him, but I'll say it again. I can't thank him enough for taking his time, because it's, these particular conversations are very meaningful to me personally. And yeah, it just goes a really long way. So, you kind of have these moments and you're like, oh, this is kind of why I do the show, and why hopefully, if at some point I'm not doing the show, I can look back and say, hey, I was able to kind of encapsulate this and maybe look back on it sometime. We'll see. We shall see. You kind of build enough of these conversations over a course of time, and you're like, good Lord, it's a lot to ingest. But yeah, anyway, things are going all right. Like I said, I had a really busy couple weeks, and now I'm kind of in this, I've had a lot of things pile up, so I have a lot of work I have to get done. And, I don't think I've even done an interview in a while, but I've had a lot piled up. So I have an interview this week with someone I've been meaning to get. Like I said, I never like to spoil them before I actually record them, because you never know what can happen. But yeah, I'm going to be going back to work. I'm kind of like racking my brain because, I'm just being a lot more particular about who I have on the show and when I have them. Like I said, last month was our biggest month. And this month will not be our second biggest month because I took a week off. But maybe we'll get them back in November. We shall see. We shall see. I have to say, though, guys, can I talk about a little pet peeve of mine? I don't know if this is me being salty, it's being petty. Maybe I'll start the petty, salty cast with motherfuckers just talking about people they're jealous of. No. I think I'm a little salty how many podcasts have got started during the COVID times. I'm just like, all you Johnny come latelys, it's just like, yo, man. It's like, I guess you like a drug dealer, right? And you got the best crack, in your corner, and all of a sudden you like, yo, man, there's a lot of crack dealers in my corner now. So I need to start shooting people. I know how it feels, now. Honestly, in a weird way, it makes me just want to do a completely different show, because I hate, even though I've been doing it for a while, and I'm not going to pretend as if I have the most unique show in the world. I guess what makes it unique is the person and kind of the angle. But I have seen quite a few people kind of take my angle, I believe, and kind of do their thing with it, So that's something, and that's a personal thing. It's something I have to deal with. I don't think it's not, and trust me, it's not that I'm jealous at all. It's just, it's more that, it's like, oh, okay. Putting cases on all you bitches, I see what's going on. No, I just think, obviously there's a tendency for things to dilute. We'll see, but it in a situation like this, I always want to, everyone's zigging, I want to zag, and I have to kind of figure that out. But I'm kind of on this journey of like, all right, I'm trying to talk to these people and have these conversations. So we'll see. I'm just airing a little my frustrations, which I don't know if is kind of tilted towards my better nature. So I'll work on that. Maybe that's something I need to work on. Don't worry, be happy. As the great Marvin Gaye said. Actually, Marvin Gaye didn't say that. It was the other homeboy. I was joking. Bobby McFerrin, that's it, who said that. All right, guys. off the rails it goes. Anyway, you guys have a great week. A couple weeks gonna be crazy. You know, I don't really know what to tell you to stay sane. Don't read the news. Oh man, there's no basketball to get me through either. I'm gonna have to start watching football or baseball. I should get on baseball, right? It's the playoffs, right? All right. Maybe I'll think about it. Anyway, peace out. Congrats to the Lakers. We did it for Mamba. For Kobe. Mamba is out.